The Disney Bronze Age, or occasionally referred to as the Dark Age of Disney, followed the death of Walt Disney. During this time, many animators that had been working for the studio for years were starting to retire. This caused the company to have a new surge of young animators. The new animators and the old ones had a clash of creative ideas, resulting in numerous animators leaving the company and projects shifting in tone and direction. Although some consider the era as the Dark Age, numerous quality films were released that were capable of keeping the company afloat. Today we are going to take a look at all 8 films released during the Bronze Age and rank them from worst to best. As always, I hope to see your personal lists left in the comments section below. When I first watched Oliver and Company as a child, I thought it was bad. After watching it now, I can see how wrong I was, as it's not bad. It's terrible. Oliver is an awful main character with no personality, a character so barely developed with almost no lines. The movie should really be called Tito and Company, as the annoying chihuahua never stops talking and has infinitely more screen time than the main character, Oliver. It's not just Tito and Oliver that are the problem, as every side character is so boring, unlikable, or underdeveloped that why should I care? Although other movies on this list might be arguably worse, with them I can live with the mediocrity or boredom, but with Oliver and Company, it's personal. Okay, well maybe it's not that serious, but it's definitely the one I enjoyed the least. Making this list was not only my first time watching the Black Cauldron, but it was also the first time I heard about this movie, which isn't surprising considering the movie, although costing $44 million to make, which was Disney's highest costing film at the time, was a financial and critical flop, and I can easily see why the movie was looked upon so negatively, as it manages to be so boring that it's a better sleeping pill than Winnie the Pooh, a movie that I'm convinced was designed to help children sleep. All the characters are completely void of personality and unlikable. The villain is a huge disappointment, having almost no screen time and throughout the movie doing basically nothing. The villain is completely barren of any aspects of making a good character. It's a paper cutout that falls flat, just like the rest of the movie. Speaking of Winnie the Pooh, The Many Adventures of Winnie Pooh was created to be a cost-efficient movie after Walt Disney purchased the movie rights prior to his death. As I stated earlier, the movie's best quality is its ability to cure sleep deprivation. Also Tigger, he's cool. I didn't know Winnie the Pooh was strapped with a rifle. The plot is pretty much non-existent, being basically a package film with some loose threading between the short stories. There isn't really a good climax to the film, which wasn't a surprise considering the target audience. Tigger gets over his fear of heights, although it wasn't previously established he had one. Also, I like to say, Rabbit is a victim, and Eeyore needs therapy. The Rescuers is a film I actually enjoyed, but it's not without its flaws, as the film is quite slow-paced. I like the relationship between Rufus and Penny. The villain was good, although being very similar to Cruella de Vil, which makes sense considering the original plan was to have Cruella de Vil as the villain in The Rescuers. This direction didn't work all too well after the decision to change the villain to an original character, as she ended up being an overall weaker version of Cruella. She does, however, do some diabolical things, like kidnapping and attempting to kill a child, but worst of all, hiding the gem inside of Penny's teddy bear instead of something else, just in order to terrorize the child. Also, it's interesting that of all the movies Walt Disney's main core team has ever made, they've only produced 3 sequels, one of them being The Rescuers Down Under. It's definitely a weird pick, as you would expect one of the sequels to be a more well-known franchise. The Aristocats is okay. The overall movie is just alright. The villain is a pretty weak, bumbling fool, which I found a nice change of pace after watching all the previous Disney movies in a row. His goal to abandon the cats in the swamp in order to claim the inheritance while managing to mess up at every opportunity possible is quite funny. Even though what he is doing is obviously wrong, you can't really blame him when the cats are so infuriatingly obnoxious. The dogs Napoleon and Lafayette, I'm the leader, were way more memorable and likable characters than most of the cats, and really should have been the stars of the movie. Also, the mouse really came out with a cookie and asked for a spoonful of milk, just to betray the cat's trust and pull the comically large spoon. Coming in third place is a movie I enjoyed a ton as a child, that being Robin Hood. I always thought Robin Hood was one of the earliest Disney movies. I was surprised to learn it came out after movies like Lady and the Tramp. Robin Hood reused animation in order to cut costs and be time efficient, which might have been one of the reasons that I was mistaken by its age. The villain King John is great, and steals every scene that he's in. Robin Hood himself is also a good protagonist, unlike Oliver. Also, I noticed Baloo the bear from the Jungle Book and Little John look strikingly similar, and they could possibly be twins. Or reincarnation. Aha! Also, I'm pretty sure Robin Hood was responsible for unleashing the darkness over the world that is furries. In second place, we have The Great Mouse Detective, a parody of the classic stories of Sherlock Holmes, with characters such as Basil of Baker Street and Dawson. It's an extremely enjoyable movie with its spectacular villain, Ratigan, who feeds his henchmen to the cat. You can tell how often he feeds his disobedient men to the cat, as it's morbidly obese. Ratigan's formal name, Professor Ratigan, means he has a PhD. I wonder in what field? And at number 1, my personal best of the Bronze Age is The Fox and the Hound. Although The Fox and the Hound is a sad story, it still managed to be enjoyable and sprinkle in a fair amount of jokes. The Fox and the Hound is a great friendship and loss of innocence story. I've heard complaints the love interest, Vixie, was forced, but personally I found it to be way less forced than the relationship between Mowgli and unnamed village girl. I also thought it went a long way to breaking up the melancholy pace of the film. I love the wholesome relationship between Todd and his caretaker Tweed. She cared enough about Todd to let him go live in the forest in order to protect him. I think The Fox and the Hound is a great movie and my personal favorite of the Bronze Age. Well, there you have it. That's all 8 Disney Bronze Age films ranked. Next, we'll be taking a look at Disney's Renaissance era, their most successful era. Subscribe so you don't miss out.